So, when did you actually first have the idea to make this film? Because it's sort of about your family.
Yeah.
Was this like, because we haven't really talked about when you actually decided to become a filmmaker. Was this, in a way, like the reason you became a filmmaker, to tell this story? And at what point did you decide there was a film there?
I never thought that I was going to tell this story because I never think that this is worth sharing. Because I was ashamed of my past of being punk. It wasn't that much easy to tell. Right now, I make everything looks easy, but because I've been through an internal journey and try to understand who am I, who is my identity, or where I came from. Because being born and raised in Istanbul, you directly fetishizing things outside of your country. And when I was living abroad, I understand looking to West was completely something else. It's not just outward, it's inwards is more things are interesting. By the way, what you are going to see in the back side will be the actual footages. This is one of the first punk concerts, like one of the key punk concerts in Istanbul. And I wanted you all to see this because this is like super insanely crazy, you know, so there will be these kind of footages are going through. I will explain from time to time, but these are real. This is 1991. This is a grindcore band called That Room. And what you see is real. It's a daytime concert.
Why during the day?
They were just drinking Coca-Cola and literally, and there was nothing all, this is it, you know? And these are real footages. Nobody saw these footages, and that's the thing. In my country, these people were outsiders, man. Literally, check this, you know. And I born in this house.
So explain that.
I'll explain you that. But the filmmaking was for me. It started before. Basically, it started with technology and internet. I was kind of a tech guy, into the technology a lot because it was the birth of internet and everything in my teenage years. So it gives me so many interesting ideas when I was dealing with the internet because I was a punk, listening all these crazy punk records, and I was into the DIY culture. But then the internet came, and then I was connecting all this stuff. So basically, I started producing movies for the internet under a name called Diary of Moo, where I was sharing the footages of my life, when I was hanging out with the people and just was shooting them and uploading to the internet. That's how literally my filmmaking journey started.
Right. So tell us about your connection to this punk scene.
I'm gonna it's gonna be funny if I say it this way. I'm born this way, literally. There's one picture even of mine. I was 3 years old, doing devil horn. I had a picture, and think about this. This is it's unimaginable, you know. And I born in Merter, which is a district of Istanbul, which is a middle-class family district. And my father was a musician in the 70s. However, he was famous. He was climbing his fame, but then the coup happened. So he was forced to join army. So in Turkey, there was this thing that you have to join the army, even you finish the university. Normally they haven't go that long, but they forced everyone to join the army. And when he returned back, he found out that he lost the whole chance in the career because everybody forget it. I grew up seeing my father claiming all the time that he's going to return back to music, but he never returned back that, you know. And when I also grow up, I see my brother, and my brother came to this world, and because of the DNA, obviously he chose music again, but this time he chose something weird. So this was a time of thrash metal music becoming famous in the world, especially metal music. So accidentally, they find out one cassette of DRI, an MOD surfing in the USA. So basically that's how their journey started. They find out punk music, hardcore punk music. And then they build up the first punk record and one of the first punk bands in Turkey. My brother was part of it. And when I grew up, when I'm born, I saw their cultural clashes all the time in the house. So my brother was like always in fight, and I was doesn't understanding why this anger was, you know, because he was telling me that I want to do this music, I'm gonna do it in English. No, they are gonna listen. And my father was saying to him like, no one is gonna understand you. Just at least please make the music in Turkish. And I was like, no, it's gonna be English. And like, there was always a fight in the house. And I was like growing up, watching them, like, what is going on here? Like, you know? And then the interesting thing is that like, I grew up and I become a mature, when I was teenager and past the teenager years, then I get into the business, like I start to work in advertisement business. Everybody was doing the same thing towards to me also. So it was crazy. Like, it was like they were like trying to say to me that like, you can't do this thing here. No, they will not. No one is going to understand you. No, please don't go that far. Don't in ideas. Don't go there. Like they were like doing the same thing that my brother was facing. And I was like, why? Like, why should I cannot do that campaign? Or how come I cannot think that idea? Like, why? What does it? This too much means for Turkey. Like they were all saying that this is too much for Turkey. This is too much. Like what that means, you know? And I was like really totally like go crazy for this. And then basically I started living abroad, and I understand that all these things that like I was facing it was completely something else. It's a cultural problem that is happening in Istanbul and in general in Turkey.
Right. But it's really fascinating how much Istanbul seems positioned at once as like this exotic other that exists separate from the rest of the world, but it's also kind of the crossroads of the world. And it's really fascinating all the international connections that your brother and you have built through your creative work. So could you talk a little bit about Orkin and his bands, like their exchange that they had with punk bands all over the world?
What you saw right now is a band live concert from 1991 or 2. It's in Bilsak. Bilsak is like Brooklyn Bazaar place. Like think about like that, or 538 Brooklyn, the hardcore punk place. I don't know if you are familiar with here. It's kind of that kind of a place. And this is a footage. I'm actually showing you the real footage. And these are little kids. They were just going to private school in Turkey, and most of them is either coming from middle class or upper middle class families, and basically they just want to express themselves, and that's the most important thing. Is like these kids, for them, is being punk first is just explaining yourself. It was so hard, like literally wearing the sneakers, the sneaker shoes was a statement. Like in 20 years ago. And even in my teenage years, all my friends, I studied in a private school, like really, like I was studying in a very privileged environment. But even like back then, like 10 years ago, my friends were looking to me very strange when I was wearing a Converse, you know? Like it's like, man, just like wake up, you know? And now it's everybody's streetwear is like Kanye West is taking over everything. But it was a big statement, you know? And yeah, I mean, so my brother and their teams were just like fully trying to find a way to express themselves. That was the whole mission in punks in Istanbul and Turkey.
Yeah, and they really developed their identity through like these split 7 inches. And
this footage explains everything. This is Tolga, which is I said Tolga abi, which is an older person than me. And this is the footage that they were trying to shoot themselves. Like look at the when you look at the face, you just they're trying to pitch like get the cover of their poster design. Like are you feeling it? Like it's too romantic, you know? Like I mean, this is punk. I mean, this should not be that much romantic. But like this is how it is. Like they were trying. This is my brother. And they were just trying to get a picture. Like he's doing weird, funny things in front of a camera, and this is like one of the first times they were touching a camera. Actually, that's why they are trying to understand this format. It's a weird enlightenment for them, and they're like showing the poster. You see like their names, and they're joking about their genres of their music and stuff. So it's just like they're teenagers, you know, and they want to express the energy that they have, where the society is always killing it. Like, and the funny thing is that like this is not the most of the time conservative people are killing you. It's the people that supposed to understand you is the killer. It's like it can be your father, it can be like your girlfriend, it can be like the person that like suppose that the so-called liberals, they are the ones that are telling you that like no, don't do that, dear. Don't ever try that because no one is gonna understand you, and then you will become alone, and you will become like they're like doing this intense manipulation of mind where you become like there has to be something wrong with me, but the truth is there's nothing wrong with you. You just want to express yourself, and that's so important for a kid to learn at this age. And American hardcore music also teach me so many stuff that like it was like a mind-blowing for me to experience this music when I was a teenager.
And some of the most important hardcore bands actually came to Istanbul when you were a kid and were like staying with you guys, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you are familiar with, like, there was one band called Born Against, which they are from New York, and they are like a huge, important band in the history of American hardcore music. And basically Sam McPheeters, which is a writer right now, he visited to Istanbul at the time with his girlfriend Tara. And this was literally for the first time I was speaking with an American person in life. And I was going to a private school, but I never used the language before, like in the real life, in the real environment. And for me, the first time was speaking with Sam, and I was like, "Who are this person?" Like it's like meeting with someone from another galaxy. But I was into the culture because I was listening like Suicidal Tendencies, Spaz, and like all these crazy bands like Napalm Death, and so I was familiar with the culture, but I was like for the first time speaking someone that understands me, because like I'm always like giving this example. We also spoke with you before. Like basically the first girl that I was like have a crush. Her name was Jamie, and the reason why I was having a crush is that like she asked me what kind of music I like, and I answered to her like punk, and she said to me like, oh, like something like Green Day, and normally you vomit like when you hear that, like Green Day, and like you should be vomit, you know. But I was like, wow, like finally someone is like understanding me, you know, this explains the weirdness of my situation, how I grow up and having a taste with punk. This footage is from late 80s. This is showing the metal scene. Metal scene was huge because it was also in everywhere. It was huge. It was the time of Metallicas and Megadeths and all that stuff. This is a concert of Metallium, but I just want you all to see in the backdrop the feeling of all these kids. It's interesting footage. That's why I want to show it. You know?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the making of the film. You've talked a lot about how you were really inspired by these kind of anti-hero films, like by John Cassavetes and Nicholas Ray and Elia Kazan and all of that. And I was really struck watching the film again tonight how aggressive your use of handheld is. So could you talk about how you came up with the look of the film?
Yeah. My background is coming from free cinema and a lot. Like I like Dogma's movement. I like the British free cinema movement, and basically I love all these underground filmmakers like Jonas Mekas and John Cassavetes was like my idol, you know. And I was liking the idea of that, like when I look at you, like for example in real life, I go back and forth, you know, like I hate tripod, like I hate that structural approach. Like that's why in my country that always exists, and I was like fuck this tripod. Like I'm gonna shake the camera all the time. Like I want you to have a disruption when you are watching it. I want you to be disrupted by watching it. Like the whole movie is actually not you to like the movie. Like I don't want you to like things for the first time in your life. Just to give the effort, because punk music is like that. It's like, oh, I don't get this. Don't get it. Just give the effort to something that has a contrast in it. And I want to see that in the people, because we were becoming dull, like we don't give energy to anything anymore. We want everything to be given, like, and simple and soft and structured, and I like that rawness, especially in this age. And I want to try to provocate my Turkish viewers by making an anti-hero movie, where you don't supposed to like the hero, and that's a good thing too, because that thing is actually leads to something towards to make you forced to do an empathy towards someone that you don't supposed to like too. You understand what I mean? Like,
and it's really interesting how you're not supposed to like kind of the rhythm and the texture of this film, like a lot of punk music that's so abrasive, but once you give in and you go for the ride that you take us on over the course of the film, you arrive at it, and that's why it's so great that you actually leave the punk music, to like the end of the film.
Thank you.
You take us across all these genres and then leave us there with punk at the end.
my biggest mission with the film was that, like, especially this film was being watched more than 10,000 people in the cinema, and now it's all over the internet, and it's being broadcasted in one of the important channels in Turkey. So it's almost reached more than 50,000, 100,000 people, which is punk music never saw this number in its history in anywhere in the eastern side of the world. So why I'm explaining it in this kind of a way is that, like, I want people, especially in my country, to create an empathy towards to something that they don't like before. Like, just give a chance, man, like literally. And so this film is about that, like, it takes you, and it takes to a level that, like, you are gonna meet with punk. You actually, before you are hearing the music, you meet with the punk, with the approaches, like, with the line, with directness of the text. It's always in your face. Sometimes it's so in your face that it's Dadaist. It's like a weird text are going on in the air of the film. I want that because the punk has that, you know, like it has that Dadaist approach of like wake up call, like it speaks in a way that, like, it shouts back at you. That's what I like about it, and that's what I want to build up in the semiology of the film. You know, like, I want to create that punk music in its form too, not just in the context-wise. So I shoot the film in the 13 days. Also, the way I shoot the film was punk. I shoot the movie with a camera that was as big as my hand, like a pocket camera. I use Russian lenses, but the camera itself was like cost $1,000 to buy. And so the reason why I designed the whole process of filmmaking like this is that, like, I wanted to inspire people, not just in the context-wise, also the whole thing.
Totally. Let's take some questions from the audience. Ian.
Did you just say that you filmed the entire thing in 13 days?
Yeah.
What? You elaborate on that?
In 13 days. I had to. That was my budget too, also, and I had to be organized.
This is your brother, by the way.
Yeah. This is Merter. This is where I came from. But this is in the 80s. You see in the backdrop there were slums, but the other side is the houses that my family built and with their friends. So this contrast is always there. Like, it's called Cuban slum, and this is our basement of the apartment. It's crazy. They were throwing up these punk concerts. These are actually one of the first punk concerts in the history of Turkey. Like,
And not just Turkey, but basically the Muslim world.
I mean, someone should study this. But like, I believe they were one of the first organized punk youth movement in any Eastern and Muslim country in the planet. Like, literally. This is me, just literally. This is, for example, from the scene. I think this girl, I love her. For example, she was one of the first, person that is being taking the pictures of the thing. So it's important. This is amazing picture. Like, I just want to share this picture with you all to feel the context of how contrast it was to be a punk in Istanbul. You know, these are my brothers. They were literally. I grew up with them. You know, I was carrying my brother's cymbals. He was a drummer. So yeah.
Other questions?
Is there much audio from this era? I mean, like the camcorder stuff of the matinee show, is there audio for that stuff?
We can ask for, when you first arrived to this venue, we were playing their music. They released some of really interesting EPs and stuff from bands from Belgium, Mexico. It's all over in the internet when you write, but we can play some songs too if you like.
Wait, so just so they know, so Turmoil was one of the main bands, and
Turmoil.
that was the first or the second?
Turmoil is one of the first bands that officially released a punk record, and they did it through mail orders. You know, like in the sleeves, they always have received these weird addresses, and so they find out these bands somehow. This is before internet. It was interesting, and so they somehow find these bands and they make the records. This is their sleeve design. Look like trash, breeds trash, putting the Nazi logo into the trash. Like it's like this is Thailand, this is in Turkey, Istanbul. The lyrics are amazing. They were talking about animal cosmetics. Cosmetic products are using animal animals and abusing them. Like it's like the conversations are so serious because the American hardcore music was like that. It's very serious. It's not like you go and like you vomit and you drink alcohol and you swear. It's no. It's like it's very serious subject. And I grew up like reading all this like pollution, global warming. I learned all these things through punk records, you know. It was crazy. This is like I showed you the concert. This is the picture from that concert. You see that T-shirt guy, that room. This is a newspaper design. This is Tolga again. This is more late 90s, where there was a more audience, because basically it was like 500 people, but it was something. This is my brother's, this is our apartment garage, and these kids are basically from the private school. They just they don't know punk, what it is. They just like there, like, yes, yeah.
I think we have time for one or two more.
Yeah.
There are. Yeah.
Do you think attitude towards punk music in Turkey has changed throughout the years, especially today in its political climate and the status of the government right now? Do you think it's influenced the music as well?
I mean, it's interesting. The underground culture is actually growing in Istanbul. Very interesting. I don't want to say it too loud because I don't want it to be known too much. But there is a very vibrant, strong underground culture in Istanbul that people even will be shocked right now. And what else is that, like, there was always, like, whatever the time it was, Istanbul is Istanbul. And that cultural layers of Istanbul is so deep. No matter what you do, there are things that you cannot erase. And never being erased. So even like I always see challenging times is an opportunity to do great things, you know. That's why I make this movie. This movie actually gives hope to my young friends, where most of the time, like when I was trying to do this movie, they were trying to leave their hometown. This is why I made this film. I was trying to show them that, guys, like, I mean, okay, if you want to go, you can go. I mean, it's nice. I travel too. Everybody should travel. But like leaving without any plan and just like leaving for the sake of leaving, let me tell you a story. And this is like ARADA. ARADA is actually, a name is coming from in between. That's what it means in English. Being in between. There's a huge young population right now, especially in Istanbul, being in between, not choosing sides, don't want to choose sides, but don't know what to do, because just stuck in between. And I want to portray that youth because I am one of them too.
Okay, maybe one last question.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
well, we'll be upstairs on the 9th floor, so join us there or come find Mu now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.